Hey everybody. Alright, looking at exponents where we combined all the rules. And the key to these problems are to simply just do it one step at a time. One step at a time. So let's look at some examples. And with these, what we're doing is we're going to incorporate product rule, power rule, and quotient rule for exponents. So I want to simplify. So this is the problem that I'm given. X squared y cubed all to the second power and x cubed y to the fourth to the third power. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to deal with each one individually. If I wanted to, I could choose to just work this portion of the problem and come up with an answer. Or I could turn around and then do like what I did here, to where I just take it a step at a time. So the first thing I'm looking at is this right here. I'm not even going to worry that these two terms are being multiplied by each other. I'm going to simplify this one first. And with this one, I have the product rule. And the product rule tells me that whenever I have a power to a power, I multiply those powers. So x squared to the second power is x to the 2 times 2. And y cubed to the second power is y to the 3 times 2. And this is what I end up with right here. And then I do the same for the next one. Now I will look at this one here. And this is x cubed to the third, so x to the 3 times 3. And this is y to the fourth to the third, so y to the 4 times 3. And if I just break it down and work each one of these, and just take my time and look at each rule individually, I can keep things organized. And whenever I keep them organized, that helps me to be able to see my math. And then I just say, okay, well, x to the 2 times 2 is x to the fourth, and y to the 3 times 2, well, that's y to the sixth. And then x to the 3 times 3, well, that's x to the ninth, and y to the 4 times 3, well, that's y to the 12th. So I did the power rule right there for all of that. That was the power rule. Now I'm coming to the product rule. And what I'm going to have is I'm going to look at same bases. So my x's, this is x to the fourth times x to the ninth. With my product rule, I add my exponents, so that turns into x to the 4 plus 9. So I did my x's there. My x's are done. And now I'm left with my y's. This is y to the 6th times y to the 12th. So that is y to the 6 plus 12. 6 plus 12. And now my y's are done. Now I say x to the 4 plus 9, which is x to the 13th, and y to the 6 plus 12, which is y to the 18th. That is in simplified form right there. Okay, let's look at example 2. So I have this quotient taken to the third power. And what I've done is I know that more or less that third power is going to be distributed to all my terms inside of the parentheses. So my coefficient, my x variable, my y variable are all going to end up being to the third power. That turns into a negative 2 to the third, x squared to the third, and then y cubed to the third. Well, with my power rule, I multiply those exponents together, so that's why I have written 2 times 3 and 3 times 3. And then I do the same for my denominator. That is x to the third, and then z squared to the third. Well, the same as writing z to the 2 times 3. Z to the 2 times 3. And now I simplify everything in there that I can. Negative 2 cubed is a negative 8. X to the 2 times 3 is x to the 6th. Y to the ninth. z to the third, or cubed, and or x rather to the third, and z 2 times 3, 6. So is it completely simplified? No. I have x's. So I don't have any other y's and I don't have any other z's, but I can do those. Now I did my power rule, and now I'm doing the quotient rule. Well, this right here becomes x to the 6 minus 3. X to the 6 minus 3. So this is my finalized simplified expression. From this to this, because x to the 6 minus 3 is x cubed. There's nothing I could do with y, so y to the ninth. There's nothing I could do with z, so z to the 6, and we had already simplified a negative 2 cubed to a negative 8. So I would like for you to pause the video and work the next two problems. And let's see if we get the same answer. Alright, I would work this to where I'm just going to do one aspect at a time. So with this one, I'm just going to work this one here first. This is what we'll look at first. And what this turns into is a negative 4 squared x cubed squared, which gives me 16 x to the 6th, right? 3 times 2. So now I will look at this one here next. And what can I do with it? Nothing. So I'm just left with a negative x squared. And now I will look at this one. Let's box this in green. And what rule will I use here? The power rule. So that is x to the 4 times 2, x to the 8th, x to the 8th. So I can pull out the negative and the 16, so I have negative 16. And what I end up, this is all the same basis, x, x, and x. That's product. So what's my product rule tell me? Add those exponents together. So that is x to the 6 plus 2 plus 8. So a negative 16 x to the 16th power. Next one, again, I can just work the numerator first. And we'll see if, we'll just try it in one step. So this is 2 to the 4th. 2 to the 4th is 16. This is a to the 5th to the 4th. Power rule, a to the 5th to the 4th. I multiply those. So that's a to the 20th. B to the 3rd to the 4th. Power rule, I multiply 3 times 4, so b to the 12th. Over a negative 16, a to the 10th, b to the 7th. Now I'm looking at quotient rule. Well, the first thing I can do though is deal with my coefficients. 16 over 16 is the same as 1. There's a negative there, so I know I'm going to have a negative answer, so I'll put my negative sign there. My 16s are now gone, and all I have to deal with are my variables and their powers. Quotient rule means I subtract. So what this turns into is a to the 10th, right? 20 minus 10, b to the 5th, 12 minus 7. And there's that answer. To highlight what we did up here, so that way we don't get confused, this is what I ended up with. 2 to the 4th times a to the 5th to the 4th, b cubed to the 4th, which became 16, which became a to the 20th, which became b to the 12th. Alright, power rule, multiply the exponents together. So that is how I got that numerator. Denominator, I had nothing to do until I got to where I used my quotient rule. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is your combined rules, putting your product, power, and quotient rules in use together. All right, so I say to you, good luck with your homework.